Hello and welcome to this video analysis for Reddit user Relationship Putrid, who is looking for help to carve in snowboarding. The post said that it was day 6, so I'm not sure whether that means day 6 of riding in total or day 6 for this season. But in either case, I would like to just begin by commenting that I do believe there is a good demonstration of control in this snowboarding, and I will just go through the footage and see how we can get it better so that we have more grip in those turns so we can start to get towards carving. So let's take it from the top here. We're starting off with a nice little initiation into a straight line, and the first thing I see is as we come here we're going to have a look at this body stance. Everything appears to be lined up quite well. We have the head, which is more or less on top of the shoulders. I would encourage just bringing it slightly more on top of that chin, really gluing the chin on top of the shoulder, as if the shoulder was the side of a rifle and you were aiming down it. But as opposed to the rest of the body, it seems that the shoulders are on top of the hips are on top of the knees, and the knees are on top of the feet, which is really great to see. And we also do have the hands really nicely relaxed down by the sides of the snowboarder. What I would say is it's a little bit tricky to see at this angle, but I would say we maybe want to bend that front knee a little bit more, shifting the shoulders forwards and really pressing down on that front foot, getting a bit more aggressive towards attacking the slope and really getting that weight forwards into it. It's kind of like, imagine you were playing darts, and when you throw the dart you really shift forwards on that front foot. Anyway, skipping ahead a few frames, as we go deeper into the turn though, we can see that we do have a kick of the back foot there, and now the shoulders are slightly twisting out of line here. So what that demonstrates is exactly what I was just mentioning, is that the control is, instead of coming off of squeezing into the shin of the boot there, which I would want to see really being angled more by this point, we don't have the steering mechanism coming from leveraging the equipment. That's the boots, the binding, then into the board. And because that steering mechanism isn't available to us, we then overcompensate by kicking through the rest of the body into the back foot to force the snowboard to come around. So the first point to take away from this is really using your ankles and knees to shift more weight onto that front foot to then have that steering mechanism available to you. And you can feel this right now by just taking a stand and feeling, as you stand with shoulders widths apart, that you can use your ankles and your knees to shift 80% of your body weight onto your front foot. You should be able to easily lift your back foot off the ground as there's no weight on it. You should have your chin glued on top of that shoulder like the sight of a rifle. And if you just feel that you bend more your knee towards the toe edge, you would be squeezing weight into the front of the boot, which would be leveraging the board to steer in that direction. And if you slowly shift weight back onto the heels to the point where you feel pressure in the point of the heel and your ball of your foot and toes lifting up, then you would be steering towards that direction. And this requires no movement from the upper body whatsoever. It's all done by the knee and the ankle, keeping that weight mostly over that front foot to the degree that the back foot can lift up easily. Anyway, let's see what happens as we go through the next few frames. So we do have a good grip of the board there. I can see that the edge is cutting into the slope and the rider is running along in a good direction going across the hill. But as we can see, we do have that front shoulder still turned out, and I see more length in the front side of the body to the side of the back leg. So that suggests to me that we have a distribution of weight which is a bit heavy over the back foot, so that it's really going to make it harder for you to initiate turns, and then it's also going to make it much harder for you to pressure the board all the way along, which for carving turns and grippy turns you really need to be using that maximum length of that edge. Any loss of the length of the effective edge is going to translate to the board not being able to grip the slope in the degree that it needs to in order to really bite and rail along on that edge. So let's now skip ahead a few frames, and we're going to see what happens as we transition from this edge to the other. So there we have a kicking out of the back foot, you see. There's a twisted body position here, bringing tension from the front shoulder across to that back foot, and using that sort of rubber band effect to just kick out that back foot a bit. It's not too much, but it is there. You really want to get this motion happening by having, as I am labouring the point, more weight on that front foot to really use that boot and binding as a lever, like a turning stick, to really get the board tilting towards the heels by transferring weight through the feet gradually until you feel that toe edge is starting to tilt up, and then the body should be beginning to tilt into the inside of the turn. And then we're going to allow, by relaxing the knee and the ankle, we're going to allow the forces of momentum and gravity to really compress that weight into the edge, and there you're going to get that grip, which is going to get you rocketing round the turns in a good speed but with a good amount of control. Now as we come around, something else that I'll just notice is that we could just get that head slightly more on top of that shoulder, and if we were to, as I say, just dip that shoulder down towards the front foot a bit more, then you would have more grip already. And you can see here that the board, it's skidding a bit as you're on that edge. We don't have that grip yet. If you were to just stand in your snowboarding pose right now and just put your chin over your leading shoulder and just imagine that your shoulders were like a set of scales, and you were just very gently shifting the scales towards the side you want them to be, and you can feel just by dipping that shoulder even a few centimeters how that translates to pressure running down the front leg and into the front foot, to the point where you should even be able to lift the back foot up without even bending the knee that much more. And then if you were to just sink down with the knee and the ankle just a bit, allowing that weight to really rest on that front foot, you then should find that you can really easily lift the back foot clear of the ground. And now let's go through a few more frames. So we can see that the stance is quite good in this case. We have got, most of the body is quite nice and upright, lined over those heels. That's what I like to see. So now we just want to really soften the legs and allow the forces of gravity and momentum to press that weight to grip on the edge of the board. And if we go forwards a few more frames, we will actually see there the grip happens. And you will notice that from here we actually have got a nice pencil line being drawn on the snow. So that is actually carving right there. For those just a couple of seconds we have got carving. So just to bring that back, we have this turn being initiated with the kick of the back foot and a bit of shoulder rotation. And then when we do get round the turn, we do find that edge and start to grip with it, and there the carving happens. Now we could find that much earlier in the turn, more like here, if there was more weight pressed forwards onto that front foot in the way that I just described, really using the leverage that that equipment can provide for you, and you would be able to find that edge much earlier in the turn. Anyway, let's go forwards a little bit more and see what happens in the next frames. So we've made our pencil line here. Congratulations. Now we are going to go into a heels to toes turn. Now, the first thing I'm going to notice about that is that from here, we start to shift forwards with the head and the shoulders. You can see there's a bit of a dipping forwards with that upper body. Now, again, I would really advocate using the equipment which is below you, and the body parts that you want to really use to steer that lever is the knee and the ankle. So instead of kind of dipping the head and the shoulders forwards, try to think about more shifting the pelvis with the hip and the pelvis with the knee and the ankle, and then the upper body, which is firmly connected to the pelvis, will follow. You don't want it to be that any maneuvers in snowboarding is led by the upper body with the lower body following. You want it to be the other way round. Anyway, carrying on now. Now, as we come from the heels to toes turn, I must notice that this body position here is looking a lot better. We have really got now that head on top of that shoulder, the shoulder on top of the hip on top of the knee, and on top of the foot. So now at this point, all you would really need to do is, with the body weight shifted towards that front foot, is to just soften the legs and really allow the forces of momentum and gravity to squeeze that body weight into that edge for you. You really don't want it to be that this is coming from a muscular input from you. You want it to be that you're allowing forces which are more powerful than you are to do this work for you. You're going to have a much easier ride there. It's going to be less tiring, and you're going to get more grip out of those turns, which is going to eventually lead to you being able to carve effortlessly down the hill. Anyway, let's skip forwards a few frames. So yeah, we see that those legs are still quite straight. We would want to be seeing, quite a lot of compression there already if we were wanting to have carved turns. And as we can see, now the edge does grip, and we really start to run along the slope there. And then we have the same thing. We have that little kick of the back foot there, and we have then skidding, and then the grip happens there. So you do have the beginning of carving coming in. We're really seeing a nice pencil line coming in the slope there. That's great. So what we want to do is we just want to get it to be that grip happens earlier. Now, if you really were carving, you would be changing edges at this point here. You would already be over that toe edge more, and you would already be compressing into that toe edge by this point here. What we're seeing from this turn is that we do have a crossing over of the body, but we really want to just trust in that equipment more, trust in that edge more, and really allow the weight to sink onto those levers of the boots and the bindings to really get that board tilted and railing all the way around the turn, gripping from earlier by allowing that compression to occur. As you can see, the legs are still straight, still skidding, and then we manage to get the grip to happen here. Now, the reason why it's gripping could be because you are finding more confidence to press on the edge more at this point. And it could also be that, you know, by skidding like this, you're knocking off quite a lot of your speed, so there's less forces that you're working against at this point. Whereas here, when you have more speed at the beginning of the turn, you know, you really have to get lower with those knees and ankles in order to get that grip happening. But we're just not seeing that occurring as much as you need it to be. So 2 points really to take away from this whole thing then. It's not a lot, they're only minor adjustments, but they will make a huge difference to your riding, and that is, as you're about to initiate a turn, really shifting the body forwards over that front foot, using the knees and the ankles, slightly dropping that front shoulder down towards the leading foot, with the chin glued over the top of the shoulder, and then allowing the weight to shift from one side of the foot to the other, from toes to heels or heels to toes, using that leverage of the board. And then as that you find that new edge, then allowing the legs to soften, to allow your body to sink down under those forces, pressing into the edge along its entire length to really grip and cut around the turn. Now, as for applying that into your riding, you can go about it a couple of ways. You can either just go for a ride and try to think about doing that, but the way that I prefer is always to break these movements down into something which you can repeat again and again and again and again to really build that muscle memory. And something that I would actually advocate is doing little exercises at home or while you're stood in a queue waiting for something at the coffee shop or something like that. You know, just shift around on your feet there. Who knows, you might look a little bit silly, but most people probably won't notice at all that you're actually practicing snowboarding. You know, anywhere that you go, you can do little exercises to really feel these movements. And that's pretty much it. I hope that this feedback is useful to you and that it really upgrades your snowboarding, and that you are bombing it down the hill, railing on that edge in no time at all. Stay safe out there, and most importantly, have fun. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.